Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon. कैसे हैं आप? I'll be very short on the topic today because a lot of people have spoken about this, and I think it needs to be discussed again and again until it really helps us to understand the reason and the well, we know the reason, but we need to such as flesh it out. We're talking about the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act that has just been passed and in an amended form. Journalists are really upset about this and very scared because it certain things in the law can be misconstrued and used against journalists and their work. A journalist's job is to report facts and give their opinions on certain things, point out issues that need to be highlighted. And so it's going to be a very interesting scenario in how journalists are working under the PECA law. The PECA law is actually there. The premise of it is it's supposed to be monitoring and seeing how we work on social media, what kind of content is put out there, especially the government is saying it's needed because of the hate content that has been that floats on these platforms. So I am a law graduate, never practiced law, but I am interested in laws, of course. So when we were studying law, we were told that laws are generally made to give safety to the citizens, ensure citizens' rights, that they're not abused and by the government itself and others. There's another way we can put it that the primary goal of a law is to regulate society, defend people's rights, and resolve conflicts. And Laws are created by the and enforced by government and social institutions to regulate behavior, to protect the citizens' rights and liberties of the citizens. So the basic thing that comes to mind every time we talk about a law is that it's supposed to be protecting the people of the country and their citizens, their rights and everything. And that's something that is very concerning for most of us who are going to be affected or think we're going to be affected by law, uh, by this law. Pakistan has a multitude of laws. Sometimes we call it the graveyard of laws. We have a lot of good laws, right back from dating from the British era. There are certain ways that we can use those laws. We should be revising those laws that we already have instead of making more and just adding to the number of them. We should revise those laws and use them and adapt them to the present day. Naturally, we don't have a social media law, but we do have we have a media. We have defamation laws. We have other laws that could have helped us look into handle these issues. So I was just going through the law, and I realized there are certain things. A, it should be gender sensitive. It talks about it's in more in a patriarchal way. Should be that's I think that's not a very big issue, but it will become an issue in the future when when somebody is pursuing the law and asking for their rights, that certain words will help. So I think it should be more gendered. The other thing that is this is a law that can be misconstrued, can use misused against a lot of people. It can be used to suppress freedom of expression. It can be used against the media, journalists who are giving their opinion or just quoting somebody. That can be taken up as defamation and out of context. I know a lot of people have talked about this and a lot of experts have been talking about this, but I just want to talk about it in very normal, common language because I'm not an expert. I just want to, I'm speaking as a journalist or a common person. The other thing is there's a social media protection regulatory authority that is to be made under PECA. I think it it should have been formed by the consultation of the journalists and civil society and unions of journalists to understand how it can be misused against us, just to make us understand that you know certain parts of the law cannot be used again as weapons against the media. Another thing is that this term unlawful is, we can understand that, but it needs to be defined and debated by legal experts, because every with journalists and civil society in it, and define the offensive content, so that something that a journalist puts out there in good faith is not taken up and misconstrued and made into and declared unlawful or illegal. So we need to understand, define these terms. um, then the other thing that is that we need, I think all through we need uh, the journalist and media segment of society to be involved in laws that will affect their work. They're already under a lot of stress. They're already being faced. They're faced by illegal layoffs and usurping of their rights. They don't get paid. They're already working in a very hostile environment. So they should be not. I mean, the laws like this will be and can be used to hurt them further. So they should be in consultation when these things are or amendments are made. And then there's a 2C of this law, complaint to the authority on fake information. Once again, fake information is something that we need to be debated, need to be defined, because maybe it's just a report that the journalist is putting in, and it could taken out of context, it could be used as a fake content or information. So before blocking or removal of the content, which is within 24 hours, the authority should ask for clarification, ask for proof of that information, talk to maybe, may have a group of um, trustworthy and honest journalists from that are appointed by the fraternity, and they should be asked, and that how, how is this fake, why is this, why has the journalist used this, and get that out of the way, so we understand with the reason the content or the information has been used, so that the journalist just is not penalized for doing their work properly. And then, it's going to be a lot of problem and pressure for the fraternity to do their work properly. Then again, 26A of this law is punishment for, again, fake and false information. We need to verify the fake and false information, and it should be backed by videos, pictures, audios, whatever, written. Get a forensic of these things, so that certain things cannot be, just thrown out and called, oh, this is fake, and it's misinformation or false information, and then penalizing the journalist, which is not a fair thing to do. They're just doing their job. Then there's also one in which uh, the appeal is with the Supreme Court if somebody is called out on this and is being penalized. So every journalist does not have access to the or the finances to go to the Supreme Court. So this should have been not, should be made easier for the people who are being targeted, or, well, I won't say targeted, but who are going to face the consequences of this law. They should be given easier ways to access the legal tools that are there. There's certain things that are okay where journalists are being involved in the process. Then again, there's the um, when they're saying that the intrusive digital surveillance technology in law, digital national Pakistan bill, under the digital national Pakistan bill. So there are certain things that we need to discuss on these, and we need to define and debate and understand the definitions of hate speech, misinformation, content inciting in violence or harm. So we need to understand how is it determined. Of course, there are certain things that will be determined from before under the law, and but we need to understand what is the actual definition of hate speech. Is it only against certain people, or like if a journalist is getting hate speech, there are violence, incitement of violence and other things against a journalist? Is that, how do we prove it? How do I mean, I can go and say, oh, I didn't mean that, I meant it in this way, it has been taken out of context. So how do we protect journalists under this law? I think that's something that we need to understand, because it's part of our job to be always putting out content. And if we're always called up for our work, it's going to be very difficult to for journalists to a work and b do their work honestly, because they'll always be thinking how to report something, and help them this will help people elements that are trying to, you know create chaos for us. And then journalists should not be always trying to self censor themselves. We've been self censoring ourselves for decades. It's not fair that we keep doing that in an age where we have social media, we have access to the international uh, audience. We need to maintain our integrity as journalists, and I think the government and different authorities should understand that we are also part of this society. We are not working against anybody, particularly not the proper journalists that we know, the honest and hardworking journalists in Pakistan. There's a large number of them, and they are usually sidelined by the work of a certain group or certain individual, and sometimes they're not even journalists. They're just there. They've been parachuted in, and the fraternity suffers because of these parachuted individuals. Then we have trolls on controlled by political parties and other sources, and they actually produce so much noise online that it becomes difficult for the journalist to work. And how come the journalist keeps um, going to the authorities? Like, for example, women journalists are constantly vocal about the attacks and the online harassment that they're facing, but how come nothing is done for them? So we need to understand this, that if this PECA law has been brought in and it's to control and harness social media, it should not be used, and which it will be and can be, sorry, can be used against journalists. It should be really understood, debated, and discussed. They've brought it in a lot of hurry, which is an unfortunate thing. There's no, and now we're trying to go backtrack and then try to change and uh, discuss certain points in it, but that's not going to help. It should have been um, discussed before it came in. Now, what we can do is we can take out portions of it, and journalists should be studying the points that need to be discussed, and we take it up with the committees, talk to the government, talk to the relevant authorities before it is used against us. It's a tool that should not create a further gap between the government and the journalist, or the authority and the journalist. The journalists are not here to blackmail or hurt anybody, but they're here to report. That is their job, and laws like this is just these laws are just going to cause a lot of issues for them. So then the end, I'm just going to say that we need to talk about certain definitions that need to be elaborated, talked about, uh, changed, maybe defined in detail, like hate speech words that can be used, just they can be used flippantly, but they need to be understood. And the misuse of this law should be also taken into consideration now. Now that we have time and we're still talking about it, and the topic is very uh, in the news and prominent, we need to discuss it now. So let's see what happens with this law. The unions are also really, really upset. They're discussing this. They're even going to be protesting this, and they are still protesting it. They're going to court, and all kinds of actions are being taken. But this should have been not the case if we had discussed this earlier and um, actually included the people who would be affected by this law. So I hope this government and the people who are responsible for the law will be sitting down and discussing certain important points and phrases in this that can be defined and redefined and maybe elaborated on, so that we can understand why and how this law will be used, and they can understand our concerns as journalists, and we can define certain we can redefine certain words and some phrases, and understand the premise of these particular points of the law, how they will be used and how they can be misused. So hopefully things will be discussed. And just last word to the authorities. Please do put it out for public debate. It would be easier for all of us to understand and respect law and the power of law if we know what it is. If it's just going to be legal jargon and the common man will not a person will not understand, it's going to be difficult for them to abide by the law.